purpose of this video is to show our customers what's involved in changing slicer blades on their slicers they have purchased. The first thing that you have to have is the proper tools to be able to do this. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, you're going to need a 5mm Allen wrench, you're going to need a 12mm wrench, and you're going to need a 10mm wrench. You'll also need the blade changing tool, a C-clamp, some food grade grease, and finally a new set of slicer blades. To begin with, always make sure the unit is unplugged. So we'll begin by removing this top plate. You're going to have screws along this side and this side here. We'll remove those. Once we have removed those screws, we'll remove this top piece. Our next step will be to remove these two guides and these 4 screws here, which will remove this bottom plate. Once we remove the bottom plate, we're going to take this hold down out of our way and give us access to the blade frame on the back side here. To remove this hold down, there's 2 10mm bolts located right here. 1 and 2. Next step will be to remove the 12mm bolts that are located here, and then around on the other side of the slicer, back in here. So once we have loosened the 12mm bolts, we can actually let them slide down. The back side the same again. Now we're going to go to the top of this blade frame. At the top you'll see you have a 10mm nut, and here's where your hex 5mm Allen wrench comes in to loosen this. We're going to loosen that nut off, and we're going to back this 5mm out, and the same on the back side. That's going to allow us to pull these 2 pins out. Once the pins are out, the blade frames are going to fall, so be careful. So I'll try and show you here with one hand. I've loosened that nut off, I've backed out the bolt, and now that pin can actually come right out, and the blade frame can be lifted out. So, and again, be careful. Even dull slicer blades are sharp. They will cut very easily. So now here's the slicer with the blade frames removed. And we'll take our blade frames and we'll go over to the bench to actually do the blade change itself. So here's the blade frame, the C-clamp, holding it to the table. And we're going to use our blade changing tool to go up in underneath the spring to actually take the tension off, and this will allow this action here, when I lift up on that, is going to allow that blade to be removed out of the frame. So again, the tool is in this position, and it actually goes in to there, and then you can lift on it, and the blade will come out. Here's the action from the other side. I have the tool in place. I'm going to lift up on it. You can see it actually takes the tension off, and with that tension off, you can remove the blade at this point here. You can let it slip off of these 2 pieces. Careful not to lose the spring. going to take your tool back out and replace the blade. So here I'll change one blade to show you. Lift up on that. Blade will come out. Sometimes you do have to work them a bit, especially if there's a lot of crumbs and stuff like that. So there's the old blade taken out. Take my new blade. Start at the bottom, go to the top. Bring the front down. Tap it into place. And the blade's been changed. So now our blades have been changed. There's 23 blades in this slicer. Again, I can't stress enough that the new blades are extremely sharp and they will cut you. You won't even know you're cut. So you take your blade frame. It does make a difference which one is placed in. This one here goes first. Your sharp side is here facing your end feed. We'll put the blade frames in place. One special note is going to be the pin. Try and get a better view of it. You have the pin right here. It has a notch in it. Now that notch has to go down into the frame, and this bolt is going to go into that notch. So you place your pin down into the frame, and on this frame here it's down all the way because it's flush on the bottom. You bring your 5mm hex in, and you should feel that go right into place. You lock your nut and move on to the back side. So now one of the most critical parts of this operation, changing the blades, is going to be when the second frame gets put into place. And if you look down in here, you're going to see there's very little clearance room between the two frames when they come up and go down and pass each other. And right now you can see that frame is actually hitting. And if I was to run this slicer right now, it would just beat itself to death. So what we got to do is we got to loosen the two bolts here that hold the guide. I've already got my pin in place and it's tight. Down bottom, I'm just finger tight, so that I can actually move that frame. It's got to just go a little bit to the left, then be snug back up here and here, and down bottom on the two 12mm. And just turn it by hand on the pulley to make sure those frames can go past each other without hitting. So once we're to this point, the blade frames are installed, everything is tight, everything is aligned perfectly so that they do not touch each other as they go up and down past each other. I will always take a little bit of food grade grease and just put it on these. As you can see, as the slicer goes, there's a friction point right there. So you just take a little bit of food grade grease. Put a little dab there. A little dab there on the pin. Turn it by hand. Grease on there. On there like so, and we're ready to put the covers back on. Your outfeed chute, your guides, your top piece. So it's the reverse order of the first of the video. So you're going to put your hold down back in place. You get your two 10mm bolts there. Make sure that your hold down is centered between the blades so it's not rubbing on the blades, so that when the blades move up and down it won't be rattling. Your top cover here, you have 4 on this side and 4 on this side. Phillips screws hold that in place. Your outfeed chute has 4 screws. 2 are countersunk here and here, and these 2 are panhead. The guides are put back into place, and these here are tightened up. At this point, the slicer is ready to be plugged in again and start slicing bread. Your first loaf of bread should be discarded because there is oil on the blades to prevent them from corroding, and the first loaf will be contaminated with the oil. After that, you're all set.